She arrived every evening at 11 p.m. sharp, parking her beat-up Honda Civic in the same spot under the flickering streetlight. The VA hospital's night shift supervisor barely glanced at her clipboard anymore, just another civilian security contractor making minimum wage to walk empty hallways and check locked doors. Her name tag read M. Rodriguez, but everyone called her Maria, if they called her anything at all. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we continue, tell me in the comments what time zone you're watching from tonight. And if stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button to help us honor the voices history forgot to record. Maria wore the same uniform every night. Navy blue pants, white button-down shirt, and a black windbreaker that seemed 2 sizes too big. Her boots were old military issue, polished to a dull shine that spoke of decades-old habits. She carried a standard security radio, a small flashlight, and nothing else visible. No weapon, no backup equipment, just quiet efficiency, moving through corridors most people avoided after dark. The VA hospital's night shift was a different world. Fluorescent lights hummed over empty waiting rooms. Distant monitors beeped from rooms where men who had seen too much tried to sleep through nightmares. The psychiatric wing was always the hardest. Voices calling out in languages that weren't always English, sometimes weren't even from this century. Most security guards lasted 3 months before finding work elsewhere. The pay was terrible, the hours brutal, and the atmosphere heavy with trauma that seemed to seep from the walls. But Maria had been there for 2 years. She knew every nurse by name, every doctor's rotation, every patient who couldn't sleep past 2 a.m. The nurses noticed things about her. How she never ate in the cafeteria but always brought black coffee in a dented thermos. How she moved through the building with purpose, never wandering, never lingering, but somehow always appeared exactly where she was needed. When old Mr. Thompson in room 314 started screaming about incoming mortars, Maria was there before the nurses could respond. When Garcia tried to leave the building at 3 a.m., convinced he was late for patrol, she guided him back to bed without incident. She didn't talk much, but when she did, her voice carried an authority that made people listen. Copy that. Roger. All clear. Military phrases that slipped out naturally, like a first language she'd never quite forgotten. Dr. Williams, the head of the PTSD unit, had started paying attention to her after an incident in December. A new patient, recently returned from Syria, had barricaded himself in the bathroom, convinced enemy combatants were in the hallway. The psychiatric team was preparing for a lengthy negotiation when Maria knocked once on the door. "Marine," she said quietly. "This is Rodriguez." "What's your status?" Silence. "Listen to my voice, soldier. You're not overseas anymore. You're at the VA hospital in Phoenix. Today is December 15th, 2023. You're safe." The door opened. Dr. Williams watched through the window as Maria helped the young man back to his room, speaking in low tones about civilian readjustment, medication schedules, and therapy appointments. Her knowledge was too specific, too personal. This wasn't training from a security manual. One night in January, during a power outage that lasted 4 hours, Maria kept the entire wing calm. While administrators scrambled with emergency protocols and backup generators, she walked the halls with a battery-powered radio, updating patients room by room. She knew exactly which veterans needed constant noise to sleep, which ones required absolute silence, and which ones just needed someone to sit nearby until the lights came back on. "How do you know all this?" asked Jennifer, one of the night nurses, during a brief, quiet moment. Maria paused while checking the security log. "Experience." "What kind of experience?" "The kind that teaches you to read people." But it was Sergeant Davis who finally figured it out. He was a Vietnam vet who'd been in and out of the hospital for 30 years, and he never trusted anyone quickly. One night in February, he woke up screaming about helicopters and found Maria sitting in the chair beside his bed. How long you been there? He asked, still shaking. Long enough, she said. You were calling for Martinez. Davis stared at her. He'd never told anyone about Martinez, never spoken that name to any doctor or nurse or therapist in 3 decades of treatment. I had a Lopez, Maria said quietly. Lost him outside Fallujah in 2004. IED took out our convoy. I carried him 2 miles back to base, but he didn't make it. Davis looked at her windbreaker, noticed for the first time how it hung on her small frame, too big because it wasn't hers. Army? He asked. Marines. 3 tours. Medic. The next morning, Davis mentioned it to Dr. Williams. Your night security guard is a combat veteran. Marine medic, Iraq. She's been treating half your patients without anyone noticing. Dr. Williams pulled her file. Maria Elena Rodriguez, 42, former staff sergeant, honorably discharged 2007. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Combat Action Ribbon. The file listed her civilian employment as security contractor, but buried in her medical records was a diagnosis of severe PTSD, survivor's guilt, and what military doctors called hypervigilance disorder, the inability to ever truly stand down. She wasn't working security to make ends meet. She was working nights at the VAA because she couldn't sleep anyway, and this was the only place where her particular set of skills still mattered. Dr. Williams didn't say anything official, didn't file reports or recommend policy changes, but word spread quietly among the staff. The nurses started consulting her about difficult patients. The doctors began leaving notes about veterans who might need extra attention during her rounds. The hospital administration never knew, but everyone understood that Maria Rodriguez wasn't just security anymore. She became the night shift's unofficial therapist, the person who could talk down a flashback, recognize a panic attack before it peaked, and sit with someone having the worst night of their life without judgment or questions. One evening in March, a young veteran named Sarah came to the ER with cuts on her wrists and terror in her eyes. The psychiatric team was tied up with another emergency, and Sarah was getting more agitated by the minute. Maria sat down beside her in the waiting room. "Talk to me, soldier." Sarah looked at her through tears. "I can't stop seeing it." The explosion. My whole squad. "I know," Maria said. "How long since you've been home?" 6 months. Everyone says I should be grateful. Grateful I made it back. But I keep thinking, why me? Why did I survive when they didn't? Maria reached into her jacket and pulled out a worn photograph. 5 Marines in desert camouflage, arms around each other, smiling despite the dust and exhaustion. "This was my squad," she said. "Lopez, Williams, Chen, Davies, and me. I'm the only one who came home." Sarah stared at the photo. "For years, I thought my job was to honor their memory by being miserable. Like if I ever felt okay again, I'd be betraying them somehow. But you know what I figured out?" Sarah shook her head. "They didn't die, so I could spend the rest of my life dying too. They died so someone could live, and if I'm the one who made it out, then I better damn well live like it matters." Sarah was admitted for observation, but she asked specifically for Maria to check on her during the night shift, and she did, every hour until dawn. The hospital's senior staff never formally acknowledged what they all knew, that their minimum wage security contractor was running an unofficial therapy program that was more effective than half their licensed treatments. But they stopped questioning why the night shift ran so smoothly, or why patient incidents dropped dramatically during Maria's hours. Months passed. Maria kept showing up at 11 p.m., kept walking the halls, kept carrying the quiet authority of someone who had seen the worst and chosen to do something about it. Veterans who couldn't talk to therapists opened up to the night security guard. Patients who refused medication took pills from the woman who understood why sleep was dangerous. She never told her whole story. Never spoke about the convoy that didn't make it home, or the field hospital where she fought to save men who were already gone, or the nightmares that made her choose the graveyard shift because darkness felt safer than trying to sleep through it. She just showed up, quiet and steady, proving every night that sometimes healing doesn't happen in therapy sessions or support groups. Sometimes it happens at 3 a.m. in a hospital hallway, when one survivor recognizes another and says, "I know. Me too. And we're still here." Because the strongest warriors aren't always the ones who fight. Sometimes they're the ones who stay awake all night, making sure their brothers and sisters make it through to morning. The windbreaker she wore belonged to Lopez. She'd never told anyone that. But every night when she put it on, she remembered why she came back, and why that mattered more than why she was the only one who did. So I ask you, have you ever met someone who carried more than you could see? Someone whose quiet strength held together a world you didn't even know was broken? Share their story in the comments, because here on the Human Stories, we honor the ones who serve even when the war is over, even when no one's watching, even when the only battlefield left is the space between midnight and dawn. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, and help us remember that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear security badges and carry thermoses full of black coffee, standing watch over the ones who can't sleep because they've seen too much. And next time you pass by a night security guard, look closer. You might be seeing someone who's still serving, still fighting, still making sure that those who gave everything never stand alone in the dark.